Hey everyone, it's Ian from the Postal Hub podcast,
And Marek from Last Mile Experts.
and we are the Last Mile Prophets. And yes, there is something different about today's recording. Marek's on holidays, believe it or not, and he's still made time for this video today because something interesting has just happened in the UK where Amazon has started rolling out 100 and oh gosh, I can't remember the number now. New parcel lockers in conjunction with a train operator. Marek, it's not Amazon's not the first parcel locker operator to take the plunge into putting lockers into railway stations in the UK either.
No, they aren't. Only a couple of weeks ago, we posted an article on InPost, who were doing something very, very similar with a different rail operator in the UK.
That's right. They're putting out 40 parcel lockers in the UK. Now, I reckon, Marek, if you and I were having this conversation a year ago, we'd both be saying, this is great, they're both doing an excellent thing, plenty of passenger traffic, commuter traffic going through those train stations. With the pandemic, passenger numbers have gone down. Is it still a good place for a parcel locker?
Yeah, because the pandemic will end sooner or later. What will remain is the continued growth in e-commerce volumes and the need for capacity and new customer-centric features. So I welcome this move. I never felt that railway stations were the first port of call for a locker or PUDO for that matter. We remember our friends from the Doddle, they started with railway stations with their PUDOs, and I'm not sure it was so successful. Having said that, Ian, out of home is developing fast. And I think it's a good move. It's something that will supplement the locker networks in place. And, as we've discussed, there's simply not enough of them at the moment. So whatever happens,
Especially in the UK, because it's got such strong e-commerce volumes, so many people shop online. The interesting thing for me is that a lot of these railway stations are not sort of the inner suburban railway stations that have no parking. They're outside of the major metropolitan areas. A lot of them, they have parking available, and so they're probably fairly centrally located within the towns as well. So even without trains, they're not badly located, are they?
Absolutely. While stations perhaps aren't the first, they do have advantages because of the parking, because they're on people's commuter route, because often, particularly for people living in suburban or rural areas, it's a go-to place with easy access. I think it makes sense. It's part of a complete network, but not a complete solution in itself.
So earlier, Marek, you were talking about capacity. We've talked about how, in the past, about how the e-commerce market in the UK is still very strong, it's growing and all these sorts of things. So these lockers, whilst it's a small number, is this the beginning of something bigger or is it part of a bigger picture? What are your immediate thoughts?
I think it's an important foothold. Things are going to change because the UK is probably the largest or certainly the most developed European e-commerce market. And up until now, it's been fairly low tech because PUDOs have dominated. And while, as we always discuss, PUDOs and lockers work together. So a complete solution should be a mixture of both. In the UK, it's been just PUDOs effectively. Biggest players have got several thousand. I think at the moment, Collect Plus has about 7,000 PUDOs. Obviously, as one would expect, Royal Mail has probably a few thousand more. But lockers, Amazon up until recently had just over 1,000, as did InPost. So far too few, given you remember a
The
minimum
golden
viable
rule
product
of
rule, which is
one per 10,000 people. So they're not there yet. A quick one to just sort of throw this into the mix, though, Marek, is one of your pet topics is carrier agnostic versus carrier specific. Now, Amazon, very much I was going to say very much a closed system, but they've just opened up, haven't they,
Well,
in
this is
the UK?
interesting because historically it was a closed system, and now they are offering third-party senders to use the network. The only question I've got is it really agnostic? Because are they allowing vendors to use it, people who don't sell on Amazon? Will they allow competitors like DPD, FedEx, Yodel, etc., to use the network? That one I'm not sure of.
Well, if Amazon's confident enough that it can put the volumes through the network, then it might just take the view, well, we don't need any assistance filling up these lockers. That might be their point of view.
I think everything's possible. If I know Amazon, and I think I know them fairly well, I would imagine that if volume's needed, they'll open it to anyone. The minute that volume becomes an issue, they'll start closing off, in the first instance, the integrators.
Because they'll put their own parcels will have priority.
Absolutely, which is understandable, to be fair.
If it's their network. So lots of interesting things happening in the out-of-home world in the UK with Amazon and InPost. I mean, InPost.
Ian, but before we
Yes.
leave that, though, I think we should say that InPost, on the other hand, it's quite interesting because in Poland the network is effectively closed, probably for historic reasons and because of the fact that they also offer a to-door solution, whereas in the UK they're trying to make it an open network.
They do
So
work
let's
with a
see
few
where
different
that goes.
carriers. Yeah, that is an
So let's see
interesting one.
where the UK goes. Either way, I think it's good news for the customer because the customer will have more choice. People like lockers. You remember the webinar we had with InPost recently where Rafael shared the amazing NPS that lockers have
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
So, let's watch this space.
And it would also be interesting, and we're thinking out loud here, Mark. If InPost were to do a deal with, say, Royal Mail, who has still got plenty of volumes going through that system, that would be a great way to fill up those lockers, wouldn't it?
Well, I think that could be one. The issue with Royal Mail is their tech competence. For me, the interesting one would actually be for them to partner up with
DPD UK, you're going to say?
Well, that could be one. DPD UK could be one, but the other one I was thinking is Collect Plus, who has a very large, wide network of PUDOs and no lockers.
Very interesting.
I'd always thought that they might do something. Let's watch that space.
Well, I know there are a lot of people who watch these video casts in the UK who know the market inside out and are very happy to comment and correct me, I note. Very happy to correct me. So comment below. Let us know. What have I got wrong? What's really happening there? What's moving beneath the surface in the UK? We'd really be interested to hear your comments, whether on LinkedIn or YouTube or wherever. Marek Krzyzewski from Last Mile Experts. Thanks for being part of the Last Mile Profits today.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, everyone.
Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed this episode of the Last Mile Profits.
Make sure you subscribe, hit the subscribe button and also the notifications bell so that you get a notification every time we add a new video to this channel. Look forward to sharing more stuff with you on the Last Mile Profits.